Welcome to our channel and join me, Glenda and Martha as we go dog walking, gardening, biking and beekeeping. Well, we started this week off with a nice country walk. Here's Glenda doing a little bit of training with Martha. This was supposed to be a lovely sunny day, but at this point it was still freezing cold and cloudy. Look at that, lovely sit. Well done, Glenda. Barbara Woodhouse in the making. So then we enter into the main field and look at this. This is supposed to be regenerative agriculture apparently. So instead of ploughing, everything gets sprayed off with glyphosates. Lovely. Anyway, we then, towards the end of the walk, found this old dead tree and we thought, wow, there must be something living in there. Maybe bats or a barn owl. But to our surprise, we actually found it was fairies. And they, look at that, they've even got some gnomes guarding the door. Lovely. Now Martha had been chasing a few pheasants and was absolutely knackered, and we got these pictures. We thought she'd actually died. We had to prod her, but I can confirm she is alive and kicking. So now on to my next project. I've got some edging to do. So we've got this ever edge left over from when we did other projects in the garden, and I've got to surround the new bay tree to enclose it in a nice area where we can have some flowers as well. So here I am, I'm just marking out where it needs to go, just trying to get a nice shape into the drive. It is flexible, but it's still quite hard to bend. So I finally got it in position, so I now need to dig a little trench out just to knock it down into. So there we go, the shape is looking okay to me, but we'll see how it ends up. So then the next thing is to start pushing it into place and trying to bend it so it will resemble the shape, but it's kind of a bit hard when you get to certain angles because it does click into each other and it has this tendency to pop out, but it's going okay at this stage. So I seem to be quite happy with it now, so I've got my hammer and my piece of wood and I'm going to start knocking it into position. But as you can see, you hit one bit and another bit lifts up, so you have to be quite patient and work your way around. But I finally get there, and then it's just a case of filling in the edges and jamming it in with my boot as I go, so it's not going to move too far once it's in place. So just nice little shuffle there, Mark, almost dancing, and we're done. So that's that part done. So all I've got to do now is finish that edge and bring in some compost, which I got on my tractor. So this will just give it a little bit of goodness, because it was just shingle here before. So just raking it around, trying to get it reasonably level, and that's the compost in place. So once the compost is done, all there's left to do then is get a barrow of shingle, push it around the edge, try and cover up some of the messy joins I've made with the ever edge. Just level that out, and then we really are there. It's looking quite good to me, I'm quite pleased with it at this stage. So let's have a look at the finished product. There we go. Now I'm well chuffed with that, so now really it's just down to what does Glenda think. Well, she's happy because she's now sprinkling some wildflower seeds around there, so no complaints from Glenda. So the second packet's going on as well. Lovely. Apparently this is called broadcasting. I always thought it was scattering, but I'll bow down to Glenda's superior knowledge. So while I was hard at work in the front drive, Glenda was hard at work putting in seeds. So here's all the flower trays which have taken over our utility room. So at the moment this has turned into a secondary greenhouse, and she was making tea towels, lots of apparently Sophie Allport fabric. That might mean something to somebody else. So we've got 12 new tea towels, look at them, Brahmas. And also putting flowers into the raised bed area. So we've got cornflowers there, a line of cornflowers. And this bed is now filled with gypsophilia. No idea, just about know how to say it. And Dorcas. Now I do know what these are. These are wild carrots. That's about the extent of my flower knowledge. And then finally some nigella. So hopefully they'll come up in the not too distant future. So just a quick look in the greenhouse. The plants are going well in here now, so the sweet peas are really well away. We've pricked some lettuces out, so hopefully they'll be able to go out in the next week. The kale and spinach has come through beautifully, and beetroot, love beetroot, got to be one of my most favourite vegetables. And finally some white cabbage. So we're just waiting for everything else to make an appearance. And up on the top shelf, there's our potatoes chitting away nicely. So we thought we'd take a well-earned rest and tootle out on our bicycles and go and get some flour from the local flour mill. Unfortunately, I had just renovated Glenda's bike and the crank came loose when we were about 3 miles into the trip. No, I'm not happy, so I had to block out some swearing there, and I didn't have the right size Allen key to tighten it, so I just had to do it by hand, which didn't really work, so we had to keep stopping about every 300 metres. But we finally arrived at the watermill, and look at this, it's just so beautiful down here, and the fact that they still mill flour in the traditional way, we just love it. The sun's out, the birds are singing, the sound of the water is so relaxing. Look at the mill, what a magnificent building. We're so lucky to have something like this relatively close to us. And there's the mill pond. And this is where the wheel spins under there, so the water flows through there and the mill pond cascades over from the other side. We just love it down here, especially on a sunny day. And also, they do cake and coffee. So after the several miles on the bike, we were able to refuel before we headed home again with our saddlebags absolutely rammed. So this is the river that leads down to it. We can bike this way because it's an unbridged ford, and I'm laden down with 14 kilos of flour on my bike and rucksack. Glenda wanted to get an action shot of me biking across the thin bridge. I think she was hoping I was going to get my handlebars caught so she could get a funny moment on the camera, but I remained steady and made it safely across. So I'm now over at the allotment, last big job of the week. Let's get some potatoes in. So I've put the potatoes into the ground in our no-dig method, and I've covered them with about another 3 inches of compost, which again I went and got on my tractor, so that's coming really handy. So the potatoes are in, well covered, job done. So now I'm on to putting in the spinach, which you saw in the greenhouse a short while ago. Now you're thinking, God, this is an arty shot, Mark, you're doing it at ground level. I forgot the tripod, so I had to wedge it on a couple of bricks. Nothing more than that, definitely not arty. So the spinach is going in the little plugs. And now I'm just drawing out some drills to be able to put some parsnips and carrots in. I know it's a little bit early, but we have fleece. So Charles Dowding says if you cover it in fleece, you'll be fine. I believe Charles, so we're giving it a go. So I'm just sprinkling in the seed. Probably a bit too thickly, it's been trampled down, and now I'm just watering them in. So that is our first lot of carrots and parsnip in for the year. And then just cover it with the fleece, held bound by some rocks and bricks, and that's job done. So that is really the last task of the week, apart from over to the bees. So here we are at the first hive. So they're still all done up from the winter, so I just need to take the ratchet straps off, and then the insulation, which was there to help keep them warm through the winter, needs to be removed as well. So this is the first time we've actually opened these hives because it's not been warm enough, so we have no idea really what we're going to find, but we really just want to find the queen and eggs and brood and lots of bees and some food. So let's see what we find. Well, that's a good sign. There's bees up in the top box. Yeah, and they've got loads of honey for their food supplies, so they're definitely not going to run short. In fact, they've probably got too much for this time of year, really. I'd expect them to have a bit less. But we've got brood. There we go, we can see that nice darker wax cappings there. But we've not found the queen yet, or at least we don't need to because we've seen eggs. But let's see what we find anyway. There's plenty of bees in this box as well.
There she is.
Where's that?
Well, I'm sorry you didn't see the queen. Hopefully we'll be able to get her on film another week. And the girls are clearly a little bit unhappy about being disturbed here, so we're going to shut the hive up and leave them in peace to get on with their hard work. And some of them are working very hard. Look at all the pollen they're bringing back in. So now we move over to the second hive. So there's plenty of activity at the front, which is good, but this hive was a bit messy from the winter where they've made lots of brace comb. So my first job is just to scrape that off and tidy the hive up so it's a little bit easier for us to work in and doesn't all stick together. So that's that job done. No, very tidy. So these have probably got even more honey supplies than what the other hive had, so definitely don't need to give them any food. In fact, we probably need to come back and give them another super box so they've got a bit more space, even though it's only towards the end of March. but we didn't find any brood at all in the top box. It was just food. So at this point, I'm still desperately trying to find the queen or eggs. Well,
Ooh,
this is the
lots
first
of
famous
brood.
brood, so that's a
Oh, is
very
it?
good
Look,
start.
still brood.
At least we know that,
Oh,
that
right,
she's
yeah.
been laying within the last week or so. Look at all the bees. There are a lot of bees in this hive. They are a very strong colony, which is encouraging at this time of year.
There. Good. So it's in eggs.
So we finally found some eggs, which is great. And then Glenda just wanted to get some close-up footage of the bees.
I think I'm a flower.
You are a flower,
Thank you.